Hey everybody, my name is Aaron. I'd like to welcome you to my channel, Positive by Negative, where we're turning pain into power and power into purpose by alchemizing that dark spiritual coal into shiny bright diamonds that we can use for our growth and development in this big crazy world of ours. And if you're new to my channel, awesome. It's great to see you. Thank you so much for coming. If you hear something that resonates here, then please give me a subscribe or a like. And if not, no worries. We can be friends in some other facet of life. You know, we don't resonate with everybody, and there's plenty of other light workers out there that are doing this kind of work. So, you know, keep looking until you find somebody you do resonate with. But, you know, if you do, then welcome. It's great to see you. And if you're coming back, hey, even better, man. It's good to see you back here. So, you know, what I want to talk about today is something that I think is very, very important right now, especially in the world that we live in. You know, it's not too far of a stretch to say that if you really look around to the outside world and what's going on right now, that, you know, to the casual observer, it might look like what is usually referred to as the apocalypse is happening out there. And you would probably be right. You know, there is definitely a change in energy. There's definitely a change in events. There's definitely just a general change in like the tension around the earth, and that's all by design. You know, we are on the way out of an old system and on the way into a new one. And as you know, as we go out of the old system, there are some death throes there that we have to go through, and as we come into the new one, there's some birthing pains that we have to endure for that too. And you know, I think it was Bashar that said, if you're an alien and you came to Earth and saw a human baby being born, you'd probably think something was horribly, terribly wrong. But it's just a natural thing. You know, birth of new things is not necessarily a pretty or painless experience, but ultimately it leads to a really beautiful new reality. And that's kind of what we're going for here. And that's kind of where you come in. You know, what I want to talk about today is light workers and our ability to step into our missions and our power. You know, this is our time. This is our time to shine. This is the exact reason we came here. And, you know, it's really time to kind of get that going. And if you're watching my channel and if you've left or stuck around this long, then chances are better than average that you're a light worker. And if you're a light worker, the chances are better than average that you've had many lives here on Earth. And a lot of those have probably been as a mystic or empath or an intuitive or a channel. You know, something that's a little beyond ordinary senses and stuff. And if that's the case, then chances are you probably were executed or tortured for those things in, you know, at least one or two of those lifetimes, if not a whole bunch of them. And as such, what happens is we get what's called a witch wound. You know, as we go into this life, you know, we start to feel these abilities and skills come on. We felt, or, you know, kind of start to feel our senses expand and everything, and it's kind of scary. It really is. You know, I think there's a very deep subconscious, very buried, you know, fear that a lot of us carry within us of leaning into those and accepting those skills and abilities and stuff just for fear of persecution, you know, that's left over from previous lifetimes, and that's totally understandable. But the thing is at some point we have to overcome that, and that time is now. You know, these skills and abilities are needed on Earth and for humanity more than ever. I mean, like really, like we've never been in a period where it's been needed more for people to really step into their power as a light worker. So, you know, if you feel called to be a light worker, if you feel that call, like, you know, it's you're here to help humanity, and if you feel like you're, you know, having deepening empathic or intuitive abilities kind of starting to come online, don't be afraid of that. Go with it. You know, that's exactly what we're here for. We're here to develop those abilities and share them with the rest of the world. Because, you know, we're really lucky to be here. I mean, as crazy as everything is, chaotic as everything is, this is an unprecedented time in history, because in past iterations of Earth, when things got, you know, when it was time to go to the next level, when it was time to change the atmosphere, you know, the creator sort of picked up the Etch-a-Sketch of the world and shook it and just kind of restarted from zero. And that's not happening this time. This time, the creator is actually upgrading us and updating us on the fly to go into that new reality that we're working into, you know, that new Earth that we're working toward right now. And, you know, and the process is well underway. You know, the light workers, I've noticed, are starting to become, you know, kind of come out of the woodwork a little more and kind of, you know, start to talk about these things a little more. And that's good, because, I mean, for the sheer population of the Earth, there's around 8 billion people on Earth. If you go by what the Bible says, for example, it says there's about 144,000 of us, which is a drop in the bucket compared to the total, you know, number of people on the Earth. that, might potentially need or facilitating into the new earth consciousness. But the good part is we don't have to make individual contacts with each one of those people. But what we can do is we can step into our power and kind of make indirect contact with as many people as we can. So what does that look like? Well, you could have a channel like this on YouTube, expand your reach that way. You could do it through art, like you can absolutely transmit consciousness through authentic and genuine art that comes from the soul. You can team up with other light workers. Collaborations among light workers is an amazing thing, because I hate the word synergy because it sounds very corporate and buzzwordy, but that's what it is. Light workers, when we get together, have synergy. The power of two light workers coming together, the output of that is far more than the output of two individual. Like two light workers come together and actually have the output of like maybe 12 light workers or something like that. It's a much strengthened signal. And so imagine if, if multiple hundreds of light workers started kind of working in unity and stuff like that, how much could get accomplished. And really, the biggest part of it, though, is like, even if you don't have a specific kind of spiritual role or job, like as a YouTuber or an artist or, a life coach or something like that, there's a lot of light workers out there that are basically antennas. We're like, and all of us have this ability to some extent or another to be sort of a tuning fork for humanity. And, we just carry that light within us and really just kind of emit it at all times. And the best way that we can kind of share that light is just to make ourselves kind of available in public as much as we can. Just, go out, go be among people, smile at people, because when we do that, when we transfer, those little hits of positive light worker kind of love and authentic energy to other people, that brightens their day up, and then they go and they brighten somebody else's day up, and then they, and before you know it, like, you've had a really huge impact on a lot of people just by maybe smiling at somebody, or maybe just shooting somebody good vibes when you're out in public. You never know, like when you go out in the world, like, who you're gonna impact, who you're gonna affect, and that's amazing. That's like the coolest thing ever, is like to know that, you can go out and just by sheer intention make a huge difference. Because our thoughts become action. Our thoughts are energy. We can intentionally send people energy, or we can just kind of radiate it, and all of that makes a difference in the world. So whatever it is you feel called to do, now's the time. This is the time. This is the time to get over that old witch wound stuff, and and worry about what other people are going to think, what society is going to think. If you're called to be a light worker or a helper of some kind, you don't necessarily have to be a light worker, but if you're called to assist with the ascension of humanity, then do it in however it calls to you. There's no wrong way, and they're all just as important as the others. So, right now it's safe. It's safe to come out. It's safe to, really step into and embody this role. We don't just, do this as a part-time occupation. I don't just make YouTubes or make videos on YouTube and try to be uplifting and positive and stuff like that, and then go off and just be a jerk in real life or something like that. I mean, I'm pretty much like this all the time because I take it very seriously that this is my role in the world. Like, this is a full-time occupation for me, and the creator is my employer at this point, to work through this. So I encourage all of you to step into that light worker or, just helper role and do what we can to raise the consciousness of humanity, because that's the ultimate goal here. This old system of duality and contrast and light and dark and, with all the lower frequencies of anger and hate and shame and guilt, that's all on its way out. And we're, progressively moving into this much higher echelon of existence. But, it takes all of us to not only recognize that, we have that calling within us, but to actually answer it and step into that role. So, my challenge every day to myself is to show up, as the helper that I'm meant to be, to do whatever I can to be of service and to, help humanity with this ascension. And I encourage you to do the same. If you feel called to, start a project, start a YouTube channel, start something, that expresses that call within you. And if you don't feel called to do those things, just go out in the world. Go out in the world, talk to people, smile at people, be among people. We are a social species. And if nothing else, like, you can go out and brighten up somebody's day, and I guarantee you're never going to feel bad after doing that. That's what this is all about, is to share that light that we carry within us, because it's, we can't, it doesn't do us any good to hold on to it and keep it. Really, we were entrusted with this light that we carry within us to go out and, into the world and share with other people. And and then hopefully by doing that too, maybe you'll, encourage and inspire some other light workers to kind of come out of the woodwork and wake up and step into their purpose and their responsibilities. So anyway, that's all I had for today. I'm so just honored to have the opportunity to come on and make these videos and, kind of show what I, like what's worked for me and what I've done in my life, and maybe help you figure out ways that you can kind of step into that role as well. So, I wish everybody another happy 24, and let's go out there and let's go be a high vibe tribe, and raise the ascension for everybody. So until next time, I'll talk to you later.